Donc maintenant, nous allons accueillir Arve Valso, qui vient de la société Teknos. Et Arve travaille depuis plus de 30 ans dans l'industrie du bois de préservation et de traitement du bois. Et il connaît bien parfaitement tous les procédés, que ce soit autoclave, ignifugation en surface ou imprégnation, je dirais, par trempage. Il est membre de plusieurs comités nationaux de normalisation et il est aujourd'hui directeur technique des produits ignifugants dans la société Teknos. Hervé, please.
Thank you. I didn't understand what he was saying, but I hope it was something nice. Okay, we will be in a hurry. I'm mostly going to talk about fire retardant wood and with industrial produced. Everybody know how wood behave during a fire. I suppose so. And when we are talking about fire retardant wood, is to protect the wood from going higher than 350 degrees. And as long as we can hold the, Yeah. As long as we can hold the temperature lower than 350 degrees, then the wood can't burn by itself. We know that. And we also know that the shearing speed is around 45 to 50 millimeter per hour. When we're talking about solid wood, we have to follow a product standard. And the product standard says that, oh, damn it, okay, that we shall documentate the product according to the product standard. And the product standard for solid wood and wood-based panels is 14915 and 13986. And the two standards says that you need only to test and classify according to 13501-1. That means that you have to do a SPI test and a small flame test, and job done. It also says in the product standard that if you have a fire class B or C, you need to follow the attestation system 1. That means that for a producer, you need to have a production control that will see a quality assessment system. You need to test after a plan and notify body, do an initial and sampling at the factory, and also do an initial factory inspection of the quality control system and so on. And they have an agreement about that they are coming every year and do a factory production control, and then you have a certification. And then you are allowed to sell the product and produce it, and the product will have a fire class B or C or whatever. So fire retardant, we produce industrial by impregnation or industrial by paint. Impregnation, mostly inorganic or organic salts. We have monomers, and for paint we have intumescent paint and encapsulating paint, and we also have incorporation during manufacturing. But I'm not going to talk about that today. Impregnation or paint, what's the difference? Impregnation, inorganic or organic salts, they are waterborne, water soluble, and they are more or less hygroscopic. We know that. If you're going to use a fire retardant wood that is impregnated, it must be protected by a paint. It must be given special attention for maintenance. The salt can react with binders, we know that as well. And the wood must be dry before painting. If not, you can break down the wood. Impregnation by monomer is only for use for outdoor and also waterborne. You do an impregnation, you're drying, and you do a curing with 105 degrees, but still is 10% of it, approximately, that is water soluble and will leach out after it will mount it. And it cannot be painted the first year at least. Intumescent paint, waterborne. It's produced with color or transparency. Indoor use, they are more or less hygroscopic. Outdoor, they are water resistance, fire retardant to be used. They must be protected against degradation from weather with the top coat, because the fire retardant paint or the intumescent paint is the primer. When we're talking about intumescent paint, normally you are thinking about the paint we are using for fire resistance on steel and to protect glue lamps. That when the paint is swelling 50 to 60 millimeter. But this type of fire retardant paint, intumescent paint, I hope this will work. Okay, it will. Yeah. This intumescent paint, what you see here is the wood, and you see the paint, and you see the charring. The char is very thin, and that is because it's going to allow the wood to build up shear by itself. So the intumescent paint and the wood works together. Exactly how it does when you have a fire impregnated wood. So if you are used on wood, whatever you use of this system, they will reach fire class B. And that will says that a wood like this is fire class B. It's not the impregnation and it's not the paint, it's a product by itself. There's a different parameters that's very important for the fire behavior. Wood species is very important. Thicknesses, joints, air gap, density of the wood, that all the products are tested with the top coat. And the color, it's not enough to just test with the white color. Because if you're using a black color, it behaves much worse than a white color. Fixing, substrate behind, is it chipboard or plasterboard? If you're going to test and have all these parameters, you have to do a lot of tests, and it costs a lot of money. You have an opportunity to use some other standards together with 13501. This is for having mounting, and at the end you end up with a EXAP report. Most of you know that. But there is one thing. What about durability? It's not, in the test it says nothing about the durability. And we have seen that most of the products are hygroscopic, water soluble. This is a nice picture from a school building where they used the fire impregnating product that was meant only to be used below 70 relative humidity. And that was used outside. The company who delivered it went bankrupt, and I can understand it. Well, we have, perhaps that will be applied soon, a new standard for durability for fire retardant wood. And one of the tests is outdoor exposed for 12 months according to that standard. And then you do an SPI test before and after. And you have to be in the same fire class, a Euro class, before and after. Then you can say that the product can be used outdoor, or you can use a much quicker durability test where you do 4 hours with rain, 4 hours with drying. That's UV drying with around 60 degrees centigrade, weathering again for 4 hours and drying, and 8 hours rest, and you repeat the cycles for 1,000 hours. It's a really tough test. And you do a test before and after, fire test, according to calorimeter test. It's only a small scale test, but okay. If the product is good enough, then you will have an EXT certification. That means that you can use it outdoor. The other is for interior testing. If a product can't reach ENT2, I will say that product isn't anything to use. ENT1 is only for temporary use, in my mind. Yeah, I'm in a hurry. But what the standard doesn't say anything about how long will the fire resistance, how will the wood behave after 5 years, after 10 years? It says nothing. It says, sorry. It says nothing about fungus or root resistance. We have seen in the last year that product used wrong, that never should be used outside, that the cladding of a building was rotten after 3 years. We have seen, sorry, we have seen glulam rotten after 5-6 years, and it costs a hell of a lot of money to take out the glulam and put the new glulam in again, just because the suppliers didn't say that this product didn't suit for outdoor use. Well, as I say, I hope anyhow this standard will be approved, but still it is voluntary to use it. So there is also another problem, is that we have the certification of the body who knew very much about product standard, and you had the test laboratory who knew very much about how to test and classificate, but they don't know anything about the product standard. So luckily we will have an SHO2 that will cover, we as a guideline, sorry, that will cover all the aspect of points I was mentioned above, and hopefully this will be adopted in 2017. I hope, I really hope. Well, I was talking about reaction to fire. I'm going to talk short about fire resistance. I believe everybody knew about the cladding tests. It's shortly, you build up a frame, cover it with a chipboard, put thermocouples on, and put the spacement on top of that again, and lift it as a roof over the oven. You see the oven here and the test spacement up here. And I'm going to show you. Wasn't it? Oh, why didn't I make it a little bit bigger? Yeah, this is from inside. You have the test spacement up here, you have the flames, and the test is going on for 10 minutes. And the temperature will rise about 750 degrees someplace. After 10 minutes, they're lifting it out. They will cool it down. and at the end, they take the cladding down. What we see on this test was after 10 minutes, it was only a sharing thicknesses of about 2 millimeter. And the temperature behind the cladding was around 70 degrees centigrade. So a wood cladding with fire retardant behave very well in a cladding test. So the classification was K110, K210. We have a lot of several full-scale tests for facades in Europe. And this is SP5 105 from Sweden. It's 4 by 6 meter high. You have a fire chamber with a crib and 60 liter of heptane, who is the fuel for the fire. It simulates a fire out of a window, and you have thermocouples in the window and up in the eaves to measure the temperature. The only thing that we saw is that what was wrong with the test was it was a test with a fire out the window. What about if you have a garbage container outside who someone would like to have fun with? Then you have a fire from outside. And normally a cladding is open in the bottom because you want to have it ventilated. So we took half of it and simulated a fire from the container, and we put what we call a cavity vent inside it. It looks like this. This is the same as this one. And what you see is that with a cavity vent, first of all, it's not possible to have the flame going through a cavity vent, and you have an expansion intumescent product in the middle. So when the flame comes up here, it won't go through, and when the heat is high enough, then this will swell up and make it totally closed. We see how it looks before a fire. I also have a okay. This is very long, so it will be no coffee break. Okay, that's how it looks before the fire starts. We jump. You have just start it up. There you see it's a really good fire. And 60 liter of heptane will make the fire going for 15 to 17 minutes. Yeah, a little bit too long. Now we are running out of heptane, and as you see, the wood is not burning. It's still a high temperature from the crib, but in the end, there will be no fire in the facade. And there is no fire in the cavity. Okay. If we were looking at the building regulations in the Nordic countries, we put the building into different categories, from 1 to 6. Like this is from the building regulations in Denmark. Category 5 is like hotels. 6 is for people that can't escape by themselves. So, if you're looking to the building regulations in Denmark, you ain't allowed to use wall cladding or ceiling cladding on building that higher than 22 meters below the ground. But you can use normally wood, or at the ceiling you need to use fire retardant wood. So as we saw earlier, do an SPI test, SFI test, and a cladding test, fire retardant wood can be used. In category 6, you can use it everywhere, even in the escape route. And now we're looking at the cladding, outdoor cladding. We go straight to the building that's higher than 22 meters above the ground. You can use fire impregnated or protected wood. I assume that in the Nordic country, we have at least 50,000 buildings with fire retardant wood, inside and outside. And that makes it possible to build new building looks old. And this is from my hometown. We had a huge fire, and then the center was built up by using glulam and fire impregnated, fire protected wood. And this is from an old workman residential in Oslo. This building was from the early 1900s. Mostly was poor people, working people. On the first floor they had the horse. And they'd like to restore that area. And that was possible by using fire retardant wood. I've been so lucky that Sveko, who is a fire engineer for about 3 at Bergen, and also the new Mjøs Tower, which is going to be built at the moment. And they did a real fire test on glulam pillars. In the building regulation, they said that in fire class 3 and 4, it's the highest in Norway, bearing capacity and stability through a complete fire course. So you have to documentate that a fire, total fire in fire class B is 90 minutes. So you have to show that the glulam will outstand a fire during 90 minutes, 1.5 hours. We drop this one. What we see here is the same oven as we saw for the cladding. We see the glulam pillars, A, B, C. The test is ISO 834 curve. The burner will stop after 90 minutes. Then we have a cooling phase. So totally it will be more than 5 hours. You see the pillars before the test. Putting the thermocouples on. Putting glue on. And then you have the finished glulam pillars with the thermocouples. And here is the picture from the oven after a little bit more than 2 hours. And you see the pillar A is no fire, just been exposed for 20 degrees centigrade. And what the thermocouple says was that for the thermocouples 40 millimeters into the glulam, the temperature was close to 300 for one, and the other one was a little bit under 200. In the 60 millimeter into it, it was a little bit lower, and that was 90 mil in. After 1.5 hours, it was lower than 50 degrees, I believe. But what's important to see, okay, the temperature was increased, and it was a top at about 3 hours. I need to hurry up. And at the end, I cooled them down after 3 hours. I measured the sharing thickness, and it was only 74 and 71 millimeter. So, I will looking at the Oslo airport, used a lot of glue lamp. The roof is monomer impregnated oak. In the arrival hall, it's impregnated and intumescent lacquered spruce. Traitement Bergen, everybody have heard about before. Staircase, CLT, lacquered with intumescent lacquer. Elevator shaft, painted with water resistance intumescent paint. Outside, we have studs impregnated. We also have cavity vents to protect in case of fire behind the cladding. So the fire won't spread. And at the end, we are now building Mjøs Tower. It's going to be 18 stories and 81 meter high. The first level will be offices and conference area. The next will be hotel, and at the top it will be flats. And the cladding is thermal modified spruce, which is impregnated with the monomer. And inside, all the glue lamps and so on, it will be lacquered with an intumescent lacquer. I'm not going to say who's going to sell that lacquer. This is a picture from where it will be built. We have the Mjøs Tower, and here you have a huge swimming hall, restaurant, and this is also going to be low-rise wooden buildings. You have a river coming down. This is the biggest Norwegian lake. You see them build them on the pillar because they don't, well, it's not nice to be in the first floor, ground floor if the water is coming up. Okay, thank you.